Hello everyone, this is Just a Dad. Today I'm going to do a detailed review on this older Keurig B70 Platinum. So this thing came out about 2008, but you can still find them in pretty good shape. You're going to want to be careful with the older ones. Make sure they brew the correct amount of liquid and the temperature. But this is a really nice Keurig machine if taken care of properly. It brews any standard K-Cup. And it doesn't need to read a label or anything. You can use a generic K-Cup. You can use a Keurig K-Cup. This thing will do all K-Cups. So this thing has a really nice appearance to it. It's got a really nice metal handle. It's got your standard Keurig. It's got a needle down there. It's got a needle up there. It's going to pierce the K-Cup. This mechanism operates really well. It's got a drip tray. And then you can put a larger travel mug down there if you need to. This is dishwasher-safe. I really like the blue. It's got a blue LED light in the reservoir. And when the water gets down, when it gets low, that blue light starts to flash to let you know that. And it's real easy to see when that blue light's flashing in the water. There's how you fill the reservoir. The water reservoir does come off. It's a little awkward, but I recommend just filling it up with like a pitcher or something. There's those blue LED lights. And then getting it on can be a little tricky. There's that little rubber thing right there. And then it's got like a big notch that's got to go in. It's a very big reservoir. It holds 60 ounces. And it does have a removable cap. So if you take the cover on and off, it's a little easier to get the water reservoir on and off. Because you got to get it in that little rubber thing first. So around back, it's got this spring-loaded on-off switch. So you just hit it once, and that activates it. It's got a 3-prong plug. So make sure you got a 3-prong. It's a pretty long cord, no cord storage. It's got this really nice display. And it's got this Brew Now button. These are buttons that you use with the menu to pick your size, and then there's a menu button. And we're going to go through all the settings on this. But again, it just takes any standard old K-Cup, and it's got brew sizes. Let's go over dimensions. So front to back, about 12 inches. Side to side, about 9 or 10 inches. And it's only about 12 inches tall. And lifting this up, that's about 15, maybe 16 inches. So when you first turn this unit on, it takes about 3 or 4 minutes. It'll say not ready to brew because there's a tank inside here. There's a pretty big tank in here that has to fill up with water. So you'll hear a pump running and then you'll hear the water heating up. And that takes about 3 or 4 minutes when you first turn it on. And then it'll say ready to brew. And then to activate it, you're just going to put your K-Cup in. And then it's going to let you select what size. That's what these buttons are for. So here we have 4 ounce is a real, I don't know why they don't put the ounces on there, but that's 4 ounce, 6 ounce, 8 ounce, 10 ounce, and 12 ounce. 12 ounces is a lot of water. And then once you select what, you can pick what you want the default to be. But once we pick what thing, then we're just going to press the brew button. And it says brewing. I don't have a K-Cup in there right now, so I'm just brewing a 6 ounce cup of hot water. And it comes out really hot. And then it says not ready because it's refilling that tank on the inside. You can hear the pump running. And it's got to heat the water up. Once it's done both those things, it'll say ready to brew. And then here's the sound of the water boiling. That's probably the loudest part of the whole machine. This machine did claim to be a quiet brew. And it is, for the most part, pretty quiet, except when it heats the water. So this menu has quite a few options. So let's hit the menu button. It's got a clock. Now, you could also turn the clock off. But if you want to set the clock, this is how you do it. We're just going to press the buttons, these buttons here, to change. This changes the hours. This changes the minutes. And it's only got a PM light. So if you want to set, right now it's 5:25 p.m. Okay. That's going to, now it'll display a time when the display is just sitting there. So see how we set the time? Now it says a time and ready to brew. Again, though, if you lose power, these things only hold that time for maybe about a minute or two. Okay, so we set the clock. It has an auto off feature. And we can do this for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, or off. So if you never want this machine to turn off and keep that water reservoir hot all the time, you would put that to off. I normally have it set for 1 or 2 hours. So after the last brew, it'll keep this machine on for 2 hours and then turn off automatically. Once it turns off, then the water starts to cool down inside. And so when you turn it back on, it's got to heat back up. Maybe takes 3 or 4 minutes. Not a big deal. Let's hit the menu button again. We're scrolling down this thing. Now this is a set on time. What time do you want this tank to turn on? This will not brew a K-Cup for you. All it is going to turn the machine on, warm up the water in the tank, and get it ready for you. Which is kind of nice because it does take about 3 to 4 minutes to warm the water. So I can set, say I know I'm going to get up every morning. And remember, it's just got a PM indicator. So say I get up every morning at 4 a.m. or say I get up at 4:30. So I would want this to turn on about maybe 4:20. Okay. So when I get up in the morning, this thing, the light will be on. It hasn't brewed anything, but the water is hot internally. Now let's press the set off time. So say I know I leave for work at around 5:09 a.m. or I can change it. Say I know I'm out of work. I'm out of my house by about 5:20. So then it turns this machine off automatically. That's a pretty nice feature, but it saves you about 3 or 4 minutes because it does take a little bit for this to warm up. Set brew temperature. Now this is kind of neat. It ranges anywhere from 192 all the way down to 187. I like to brew it on the very hottest. It seems like you don't notice it because it kind of cools off when it goes through the K-Cup, and you know your coffee just cools off right away anyway. So I always set it to the hottest, but you use these buttons here to go up or down for brew temp. That's the default brew temp. It's going to brew every time. Now next one is brew size. If I know I'm going to do, so remember the small one is 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. So the 8, in my opinion, for a K-Cup, for a coffee K-Cup, an 8 is just about right. But they give you the option. So if you know you do a 6 cup every morning, you're just going to push this over to the 6. And when I hit the menu button, every time I turn this coffee machine on, the default's going to show the 6. Now I can always change it, but that's a little bit of work. And this is a nice feature that if you know you're always going to brew the same size, just put it on that size you're going to do. And that way when you turn the machine on, it's always set there. So I'm going to leave mine on the 8. Press it again. And now it goes back to the normal display. It says my auto off time is set and my on off time is set. If I didn't set those two things would not be on. And it's ready to brew and it's showing the time. So this is a really nice control panel that's backlit, not too bright, not too dim. They really got this right. They went away from this in later models, but just maybe this failed on some, but you know, this one's been around a while and it's still working really well. Okay, so let's brew a K-Cup. I've got a Folgers K-Cup, and like I said, I like to brew mine on the 8 ounce, but you know, they give you the option. You can brew it strong or weaker. It's all up to you. There is no set on how much, it's just how much water is going to flow through this K-Cup. So we're going to lift the lid. Now there's a needle down there. I don't recommend pushing it down. Let the machine do the work. So I'm just going to set the K-Cup in there. This handle is going to start the process. It's going to pierce the top and the bottom. See, we pierced the top and that needle pierced the bottom. All in one motion. I just wanted to show you that. You're going to leave it closed. My default setting is on the 8. It says it's ready to brew. The water's up to temperature. This light is flashing. So now all I got to do is press this button. It says it's brewing. And it is quiet. That water pump is pretty quiet. You'll see the water go down a little bit. And in less than a minute, it's brewing coffee. See, it doesn't quite come out at 192. 176 is pretty good. That's pretty hot for a cup of coffee. There you have it. So it is pretty quiet and pretty fast. And the machine says not ready because it's filling up the tank and heating the water. So this cup of coffee ended up being about 170. So that is a pretty hot cup of coffee. A coffee pot's around 165. But this tastes really good. These Keurig K-Cups have come a long way in the machines. And they're brewing coffee on par with a coffee pot. Yeah, that tastes like a really good cup of coffee. Okay, so let's do cleanup. You're just going to lift this up. You're going to grab this K-Cup. Be careful, it can be hot. Now, I've got another video on how to recycle these, or you can just throw them away. So real quick, I like to show people it pierced the bottom. I'm going to cut the bottom off. So I cut the bottom off. There's a really nice coffee filter in there. So I cut this paper foil off, and it's got 2 tablespoons of coffee grounds inside a paper filter. And those are really nice coffee grounds. So again, I'm doing this. This is February 2021. This machine has been around a while, and I see them for sale a lot on Facebook Marketplace. I really recommend that you take a temperature probe and something to check quantity. If the only thing you can take a measuring cup, because when these things start to fail, that water pump starts to go bad, they won't put out the proper amount of quantity. So when you do the 4, make sure it does 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And then I would check the temperature. See, that coffee's cooled down pretty quick. So be careful buying these. I mean, look at the general appearance. If it looks like it's been used a ton, I would stay away. I found this one for 20 bucks on Facebook Marketplace. It was a little dirty. I just don't think the guy cleaned it, but I could tell it was still good. It just kind of had superficial dirt on it. It wasn't kind of worn out. So again, you can do teas with this. When I do a tea, I tend to do it on the bigger setting, the 12-ounce setting. A coffee K-Cup with the 12-ounce setting is just way too weak for me. And I like the big reservoir. I don't have to fill it up very often. So the height with the drip tray is about 6 inches. This travel mug I've got here is 7 inches. And I got to remove the drip tray in order for this one to fit in. And so it would fit maybe about 7¼ inches for a travel mug. So I've got this really big glass. Let's do a 12-ounce brew. I've got this Green Mountain Breakfast Blend coffee K-Cup. We're going to put it in. We're going to close the handle. Now I'm going to come up here and press these buttons. I want to go to a bigger size. This is the 12-ounce. Then I'm just going to press the brew button. And it's going to say brewing. And it starts brewing right away. And it is pretty quiet. Okay, so that took less than a minute to brew that entire 12 ounces. And it's a pretty hot, like I said, I usually do my teas. So you end up with about 165, 170 almost. But for a coffee, this is pretty weak coffee. So say somebody wants to brew a tea now, you've just brewed coffee. These K-Cups can leave a little bit of aftertaste inside these containers. So you would want to leave this empty, close it, and do an 8-ounce brew. And brew just water through here. That's going to rinse out that coffee taste. And then after the person does the tea, now teas are really strong. You definitely want to do maybe even a couple rinses after a tea. See how this water's just a little brown? That means there was some residual coffee inside here. And they would taste that in their drink. So make sure you do rinses in between drinks. And also, if you want to just get hot water, this is how you would just get hot water for like hot chocolate. And like I said, it comes out really hot. Yeah, 178. When it doesn't go through a K-Cup, it's even hotter. So again, this is the Keurig B70. Don't be scared of it because it's got this LCD panel. I know there was some Keurigs out there that would only brew a certain type of K-Cup, and they kind of looked at the K-Cup and all that. But this one will do any K-Cup. It doesn't read anything. It doesn't have to be a certain type. But it's a really nice display. Again, these are older, and you can find some good ones, and they clean up really well. I'm going to do another video on how to use a reusable K-Cup. if you want to brew your own coffee grounds. I'm going to show you how to use this reusable K-Cup in here. I'm also going to do a video on how to use the descaling solution. So you may buy one, and it may have it does have a descale light on it that will come on if your heating element is starting to get really dirty and we need to descale it. So I'm going to show you how to descale it in my another video. So thanks everybody for watching. If you got any questions on this Keurig, please leave them in the comments below. And thanks everybody for watching. And if you could, please like and subscribe.